Hey guys, welcome back to another podcast from your least favorite host. I'm Michael, and I hope everyone listening is having a wonderful and safe day. Before we get started, I'd like to ask a simple question. Have you ever wondered what's really in hot dogs? In 1939, a woman dies giving birth to one of history's most famous butcherers in a small-town Texas slaughterhouse, leaving the plant manager to discard the baby in the dumpster out back. Wow, this story may remind you of your local Piggly Wiggly supermarket. It's actually the start of the film we'll be reviewing today, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, New Beginning. Don't get too comfortable as we discuss this film, because just like most of this channel's reviews, this entry in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise replaces any depth for quick and mindless thrills. The little dumpster miracle, now rescued and named Thomas, would eventually grow up to work in the same slaughterhouse his mother found fit to birth him in. After being shut down by the health department and out of a job, Thomas decided to end his last day pounding the meat out of the plant manager's face and gifting himself a new chainsaw as a severance package to take home as a remembrance for the many years of his service. Once Sheriff Hoyt, the only law enforcement officer in the county, attempts to arrest Thomas, Charlie Hewitt pretends to be a plastic surgeon to rescue Thomas by precisely rearranging Sheriff Hoyt's face with a shotgun. Now, cosplaying as the new sheriff, Charlie takes Thomas back home with the rest of his hillbilly cannibal relatives and begin feasting on any tourist that happens to visit their dirt paradise they call a town. Now, to me, an origin story done right can be a very powerful and grounded entry for a franchise, moving and shifting the direction for later films that the reboot might produce. Part of this effectiveness begins with the writers finding a reason to explain the question of why? Why did the Hewitts begin their murderous rampage? After pandering that idea around for a bit, the next logical step would have been to ask, does it matter? Much like many horror franchises in the industry, including Halloween and The Strangers, sometimes leaving motives and reasoning unanswered create more shocking and entertaining reception to the film. The idea behind this theory being that over the next few days or weeks, sharing ideas and speculation with friends and family would further prolong the value and impact of the film. The reality is that this single answer by itself should have been what determined whether we got an origin story for this franchise or not, despite whatever garbage the movie executives may throw at us fans. Does this film follow a group of friends or lovers as they somehow ultimately end up being picked off one by one from Leatherface and the Double Thumb Gang? Yes, it does. Are we delivered kills driven by camera cutaways and short flashes of gore that are supposed to leave us covering our mouth from being a vomit funnel? The answer again is yes, we are. In terms of fillings, we are served with high-quality ingredients that are unfortunately sandwiched between two buns of boring backstory melodrama and the usual terrible character choices. It's worth mentioning that the filming location truly captures the dread and horror of a dead and decaying rural town. The plantation the Hewitt home sits upon captures the screams of the victims walking its grounds, swallowing them whole so that no one hears you. The meat factory truly is a place where most nightmares come from its thousands of rusted hooks hanging along the conveyor belt, or its runoff pools under the floor that house tanks of blood and severed animal parts. Characters under extreme duress are always prone to making decisions that, for better or worse, may not be exactly logical. However, if you go into a flooded basement that has now been renovated as the town's local torture chamber to save your boyfriend from being filleted like flounder, maybe you shouldn't use a giant round object that resembles a ladle to pry the flat restraints off of his wrist. If the old geezer who blew a hole the size of Texas through a biker earlier that evening and pulled your girlfriend's teeth out before opening her airway a bit more is now at the mercy of your hands, make sure you return the hospitality instead of leaving him alive. The film also demonstrates wonderful decision-making skills, such as severing both legs of an elder Hewitt family member when he was shot in only one of his legs. When notified of his friend's death, the second biker decides to Dirty Harry his way through the entire fucking house and take on the family in his lonesome vigilantism instead of being stealthy or going back to the bar where he had dozens of friends for help. Let's factor in the chainsaw not needing to be cranked in the final scene, and we truly have ourselves a decent horror film completely covered with lazy and unintelligent writing choices that really bottleneck the suspense of this film's final act. Looking at the brighter side of character writing and decisions, Leatherface really stole the scene every time he was on the screen. His body language and lack of emotional control really chewed through the scenery, just as much as his chainsaw chewed through countless flesh and bones, or how you are chewing through your nails to get to the end of this fucking review. The actor's portrayal of Leatherface felt very much in line with the unhinged and chaotic tone of the film. R. Lee Ermey looked deep within his core, found the small amount of evil and hatred that lies within all of us, and let it consume him in front of the camera. I don't think it's a far reach to imply or even outright suggest that his character stole the show. From witty one-liners that give Freddy Krueger a run for his money, to abusive and egotistical undertones and mannerisms, he may be the biggest redeeming factor this movie has to offer. Texas Chainsaw Massacre: New Beginning can be compared to a late Friday night pizza order when you're intoxicated. It's fast, it's comfortable, and most of all, it is technically filling. When you lay your head down at night, you might not be able to say with confidence that you ate the best quality ingredients, but you won't go hungry. Every choice has consequences. And much like eating cheap pizza, watching this film left me with guilt and displeasure in the end, no matter how pretty the packaging looked. I'm going to give this film a solid 5 due to poor character writing and a boring subplot that is barely held together by the actors' performances. While the carnage left behind by Charlie and Leatherface will remain a part of this film's foundational formula for all of history, the film's execution will leave a stain on the legacy of this franchise that's already mismanaged. That's the end of this review. I'm glad that you guys are part of this channel and you're still listening to the Subpar Podcast. Please bear with me as I gain my skills. Stay munchin', stay crunchin', and make sure you hit that subscribe button. Thanks a lot.